Just like that, JD, we're talking about players opting out. Garrett Wilson opting out of the bowl game.
While we're on air. While we're on air. And the granddaddy of them all. I mean, I don't know, Paul. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Because I know there's a lot of different opinions, and Matt Corral came out and said what he said. I think Christian McCaffrey and Leonard Fournette were the first ones to do that. And I don't want to take the steering wheel from you because I know you have things you want us to talk about, but I'm interested to hear your thoughts. Are you okay with players opting out of bowl games?
I agree with Mike Leach on a great many things. Candy corn is garbage. You should take girls on dates where they have to, order something real and not just a salad. I mean, those are the things, like those little life nuggets. And one of the things he said was, what benefit are you really getting from opting out? Couple extra weeks of working with a trainer. Maybe you don't get injured, but how many guys, I don't think people realize this. How many guys get injured in the lead up to the draft is the same that would get up after the bowl game. So there's a lot of guys who are working out and pull a hamstring, tear their ACL, Achilles, all these different things. And it's rare when they're working out for the draft than they would if they're just playing. I think Jalen Smith scared everybody off because of what happened to him. But look, he's been able to come back and have a career and make some money. Now he's not a good player anymore, but he had a good little run. He got a second contract and made some money. And Jalen Smith is going to be the CEO of a company one day. So life's worked out for him. And I don't think people should opt out because of one thing. This one thing happened to this guy and it was devastating. Yeah, but that could have happened to you just by luck. It didn't happen to you in the 12th game and not the 13th. I mean, that's what football is. And just by luck, it's maybe not going to happen to you when you're training like a madman to get ready for the draft. So all those things to me. Now, I do think there should be revenue sharing in the bowl. And it could be, look, if these big companies really want to get the most for their buck out of the name, image, and likeness, to me, I'd rather spend that money on an actual bowl game that people are going to watch around the country and know. So if you're raising canes and paying Spencer Rattler a bunch of money, right? Wouldn't you rather just, spend that money on a bowl game and give it to Spencer Rattler's whole team and have them all do it? To me, I think that, these are where the NIL deals need to go. And while, there might be an overall bowl game, you can make an NIL deal with an overarching thing and be like, look, if you're in this bowl game, it's a pretty easy rule change. The players get this much of the pot for name, image, and likeness for endorsing this product. And being in this game, they get this. And then, the schools and the conferences get what they get. I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility to encourage guys like, hey, I'm going to make $5,000 for being in this bowl game. And that's just an arbitrary number. I'm not saying, that's what it would be. I don't know what the actual, dollars break down to, but I absolutely think that you should, loop this in and make it work, because otherwise you're going to have guys like Garrett Wilson opting out for what to me I think is, okay, and not saying this, but what if he does pull his hamstring while he's trying to, add a tenth of a second to his, a tenth of a second is a lot, 100th of a second to his 40 time, Sure. I mean, the guy's already probably a 4.35, so is he going to get down to a 4.33? And what if he pulls his hamstring or tears his hamstring doing that? And instead of being a top 12 or 15 pick, he's a top 40 pick. Isn't that the same thing?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a really fair way to look at it, because people say, okay, I'm opting out to start preparing for the NFL draft. Well, guys start draft prep right after the, bowl game. It's not like you're losing 2 months of prep. Also, when you go to do combine prep, you're not training football things. Yes, you are training, obviously, the drills, and you're training, the gauntlet and things like that. So you're still working football skills, but you become a track athlete. You will very rarely run 40 yards full speed out of a 3-point stance as a wide receiver. That's just, the reality. And so I think there needs to be some common sense, similar to the COVID thing, not to make this a COVID show, but similar to, that whole situation. Do you want to live your life in fear of, okay, what if this happens and I play in the bowl game, I play in the Rose Bowl game with some of my best friends and, break a bone or whatever it is? I don't think it really, and again, I've never been offered millions of dollars to, go play a sport like football at the highest level. Like, I want to make sure I at least succeed that, because it's a very real thing of missing out on a couple $1 million. To them, that's a lot of money. To anybody, that's a lot of money. So I do want to succeed that, but I think to a degree, like you said, it could happen walking down the street. It could happen in practice. It could happen in combine prep. So I think it's just a matter of what's important to you. And if I'm a GM, I'm taking a really hard look at a guy that wants to opt out of a bowl game, especially a bowl game like the Rose Bowl. Do you love football? Do you really love football because you had a chance to play in one of the biggest bowl games with some of your best friends for something you had worked your entire career for at Ohio State, and you chose to sit out because you want to make a couple extra $1 million? That money is going to be there. That Rose Bowl game is not going to be there when you're all said and done. So just something I think it just becomes a matter of what you're weighing. Yeah.
Now, there are issues, like, because you have Jalen Smith, and I'll give you another Cowboys linebacker who's going to ruin it for everybody, is Micah Parsons is going to be the rookie of the year and quite possibly the defensive player of the year. And he opted out for COVID and didn't play at all his last year that he would have played at Penn State. And he's the best defensive player maybe in the NFL right now. So people will point to that and be like, well, I maybe going to opt out, you're going to do those things. So I worry about that. But then you're looking at, this is the first guy who's done this since Lawrence Taylor. So let's not pretend like we're all Lawrence Taylor here.
Right.
I think there's that kind of those biases that like sneak into people and like, well, this happened to so-and-so. Well, like, the reason that we know it happened because it only happened once, like we've talked about it. So the reason we're worried about it was like, oh, this is what happened to Jalen Smith. Yeah. But what about, the scores of other people, thousands upon thousands of guys who've been drafted in the NFL over the time that didn't have career-threatening injuries in a bowl game, when the game was a lot less safe to play, right? So
100%.
Yeah. 100%. So, there's guys who had good, long 15-year NFL careers that, if you broke your thumb in a bowl in the college game, they just tape your hand up and roll it out, Yeah. And if you had a concussion, they would do this, and you'd be like, that's 4. Like, all right, he doesn't have a concussion. He can count,
Yeah, 100%.
So
100%. I mean, let's say Garrett Wilson has an amazing Rose Bowl. Let's say he goes for 200 yards, 3 touchdowns. Does that not make him a few $1 million? Does he move up a spot or two and maybe get a chance to make some of that money that he's thinking he could lose by playing in it? Like, what if you have a wildly successful bowl game and help your draft stock? I think that's something that players should look at as an opportunity.
Yeah, I do think it is. It's kind of like we talked about COVID in the first segment. We talked about this. We're all reacting to like little things. Now, I know COVID's not a little thing, but like we react to little episodes of things. I'm not going to do this because this one thing happened to this one person that I'll never know, and I heard about it. Well, what happens to the most people? What happens to the 99.9%? Nothing.
Right.
Nothing.
Right.
So, look, I'll tell you this, and I'll admit to being a bit of a hypocrite. I'm never going to go snow skiing or snowboarding in my life. I'm never going to do that at all. I promise you that. And it's mostly because I don't like snow. But my one fear is that, like, I know people have fallen. There are people who fall down a mountain and die. That's pretty rare, though, because ski resorts couldn't stay open if people continue to fall down the mountain and die. So,
yes, yeah.
If skiing was one of those propositions where, you had a pretty high chance of dying, there wouldn't be an entire vacation industry based on it. It's not like, they're dropping me into a lake full of gators or something, that's not the vacation thing. So I get that. Like, I'm not going snow skiing because I know I'll probably just get hurt. I'm not going to die, but I'll probably get hurt because I'm clumsy. I don't think I can physically do it. So I'm not going to take the risk. Now, if you want to send me out to a chalet and let me drink whiskey from a hot tub, I'm fine with that. But
sure,
I'm not going to go up a mountain with things on my feet and slide down. I'm not going to do it. And
you wouldn't tell somebody else, don't do that because it's not safe, right? You would say, hey, it's your choice. It could happen. You can also have a great time. And I'm not going to tell them to opt out because I know what'll happen to me. But I think that's what's kind of going on with a lot of these players. I'll say, hey, you got to opt out. You got to do, and I get it. Garrett Wilson's doing what he thinks is best for him. I just think that when these players do that, are you really is it really worth it not to play in that game?
Yeah,
it's tricky.
Yeah.
It's tricky. I mean, sorry, go ahead.
How many athletes, I mean, JD, you've grown up in sports. How many athletes that you know have gotten hurt practicing?
Oh, tons. That's how my career ended, was in practice. I mean, I would say the majority of guys' careers end in practice.
Yeah. And how many of guys do have little nagging injuries? I hear it all the time, like can't run in the combine because they hurt themselves working out. Well, that wasn't team sanctioned. That was agent sanctioned. That was just your agent. That wasn't a team that's trying to get you in a game. So, there are benefits to things I think that people don't completely see. Right?
I agree.
Yeah, I think they are. All right, we'll take a break right here. When we come back, we're going to go straight into the Dave Aranda press conference from today. And then on the other side, at the top of the 4 o'clock hour, Pete Mundo, Heartland College Sports, will talk Big 12 with us and, Baylor's place in this game, his response to their kind of big jump where the Big 12 sits in the future. Very curious to hear from Pete Mundo. JD McKell joins me. And real quick, I did get a text. Smokey and Craig are not sick. We are in a weird travel situation.
There we go.
They're not sick. We're kind of going in all different directions. The three of us are not in the same place right now. I am the one who today has the best opportunity to host the show, and JD is the second most available to host the show because of the travel. So that's kind of how it shook out. And tomorrow, we'll react to tomorrow how that works. But we are traveling to New Orleans later this week for the Sugar Bowl, and I'm in Nashville, JD's Atlanta. I think Craig's in Dallas. Smokey might be back in Waco. I'm not sure exactly where he is. So we're kind of all in different spots around the country right now. And so because of that, this is why we're doing the show where we are from the Mustafa mansion here in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. So, and JD is at the Pickett Palace in Atlanta.
I have one more question on that. So both the Smokes then are also not in the transfer portal.
They're not in the transfer portal. No, they're not.
Good.
They're returning. They're returning and exercising the remaining eligibility, which at Sikkim 365, I think as long as we before you guys throw us in the fire. So we're fine. So when we come back, Dave Aranda, as Baylor gets ready for the Sugar Bowl. This is Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sport.
The all-new 2021 Jeep Grand Cherokee L is in stock.